On-page factors. Okay, so we talked briefly in the overview about how it all breaks down, how our pages are optimized and constructed, and the structure of them, and how words and phrases appear on them, and everything else to do with our pages that we're creating. And then, of course, the other part of the equation is the incoming links to our pages and how that affects the whole formula. Well, there are some key things that we can do, some fundamental proven things that work pretty well for how we structure the content on our individual pages that can help us rank high. So that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about on-page factors. It's stuff on our own pages that we can control and that we can change and that we can modify and move around and massage to work with some of these things that people have figured out. So that's what we're going to talk about, on-page factors. The first and most important factor of everything to do with how your page is structured is your title tag, the title of your web page, that HTML tag called the title tag. If you look at a web browser, it's what shows across the top of the web browser itself when you go to any web page on the internet. And of all the things people have tried and of all the tests that search engine experts and other people have tested and tweaked and massaged and monitored, the title tag consistently is one of the most important factors for search engine optimization. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be going away, and it doesn't seem like there's any reason to, because the title of a web page on the internet really does have a lot to say about what it's about and what it contains. So the title tag is the most important thing. That's what we need to focus on first when it comes to optimizing any of our pages. The title tag itself should be about 65 characters in maximum length. That's kind of the range most people find that works well, 65 to 70. So that's how long it needs to be, and the focus is on the title itself being the most important factor for the page. Some people say that as long as you have your keyword phrase that you're targeting to rank high for, kind of anywhere in the title, it's okay, while other experts have found that if you have the keyword title to start the tag, that you're better off. So there's evidence that shows it both ways, but I think more people in the SEO community really lean towards it having more weight if it's in the beginning, because that's kind of what's scanned first when it comes to a certain type of process from a computer that's trying to determine relevance of something. And there are other supporting factors about sentences and other things where the keywords show up earlier in the sentence rather than later. So let's err on the side of that, and this is pretty much what I use and I see results from, so that's what I'm going to recommend you do. Of course, you can test anything you want and you can try other combinations, but try to isolate your keywords in your titles by having them at the front, so isolate them towards the front. And so whatever the keyword phrase is that you're targeting for your title, start with it. And then the other great thing is to include your brand name, the name of your site, your company, anything specific to kind of your business and your site towards the back end of your title. And a lot of companies use a recurring kind of scheme of making sure that their brand is the same in every single title tag of all their site's pages. And so it always ends with the company name and how it's structured. And that's totally fine, and it works very well, at least at the time of this recording, for search engine optimization. And so that's something that you should do as well. I've been doing it. It works fine. So let's go with what works. So here's kind of an example of what it can look like. Gardening tools and supplies. And then at the end, you have your company name. I just made that up, Garden World. Someone that may be actually a real company. Wasn't intending to talk about anyone in particular. But notice the little vertical bar between the keyword area and the brand or the company. It's a funny little character. I believe it's just called a pipe is what they call that. A lot of SEO folks have found that seems to work really well, and it's a good divider between the keywords and a site name, that somehow the search engine spiders in the process of how Google ranks pages can kind of determine with that pipe that that's a separation of ideas or concepts. Don't ask me how it works, but people have found that it works, so we're going to go with what works. I've used it. It works fine, and so you should use it too. And if things change, then we'll stay on top of that for you, and of course, we'll be covering the changes as all this stuff evolves. Constantly visit the resources section and visit our community for traffic secrets. But use your keyword phrase up front and then end it with your brand. But the other important thing is you kind of want your title itself to make sense. It's not just the keyword itself. Like if we're isolating here gardening tools, we just don't only want to put gardening tools, the little pipe, and then Garden World or the name of the site. So you kind of want to make it read better, because it's not just about ranking high in the results pages. It's about ranking high with a title, which will be the link in the results, that is something people will want to click on. Most people overlook that. They just put all kinds of junk and they try all kinds of stuff to get pages to rank high, but they fail to realize that half the battle isn't just getting a page to rank high. It's getting the page to rank high and having the title, that link, appear to be something that people want to click on and then go visit after they do the search. So you want your titles to make sense. We've talked about doing things naturally. You want to write for humans. You want to write for people, not for the search engines. And so you want that title to make sense. So you do want to use your keyword phrase that you're targeting, but it's okay if you use other words along with it to make it kind of make more sense. There are a lot of different strategies for creating effective titles, and we can link to some of those resources and tips in the resources section. But it's pretty simple stuff. Start with the keyword phrase that you're targeting, and then make it make sense and look like a description that someone would want to click on by adding a few other words, and then, of course, end with the brand. The other strategies I speak of, some people try to combine two main keywords or phrases, of course, that they're trying to target that page for. So let's say gardening tools as well as landscape supplies could be another keyword that we'd want to kind of target for our business to try to rank high for. So we could try to kill two birds with one stone and try to do it both with this one page. So we'd use like gardening tools and landscape supplies, the little pipe, and then Garden World. And that would be a decent strategy, because then on this page where we put all the other content, we could do a nice mix of gardening tools as well as landscape supplies throughout the page and try to have the opportunity to get this page to rank high for both of those phrases and not just one. So there's a lot of different strategies you can try. You'll rack your brain over trying to figure out the exact science of it. The best thing is, I think, pick one keyword phrase to try to rank high for, and then, of course, you're naturally going to mix in other keywords and phrases that you're going to learn, other LSI phrases and other things throughout the page. And so, just kind of let it fall as it may, that you're going to find out when you start monitoring your results and then improving on whatever happened to rank high. It's literally like playing the lottery. We're just going to put a whole bunch of things out there to have the most chances that we can, and then whatever kind of hits, we're going to go from there and improve it. But that's the basics for titles. Kind of start with the keyword, include that little pipe, or some people do like the greater than sign or some other kind of dividing character, and then the brand, and just have that the same throughout your whole site. That's the kind of structure of your title tags. Keyword, phrase with some other words and phrases that make it make sense and make it appealing to someone, and then end with the brand. Keyword density used to be really important, like what percentage of your overall text on a page is contained by your keyword phrase. Is it 5% of the page? Of all the little characters, if you add them up, what percent, or all the words, if you add them up, what percent makes up how many times you repeat gardening tools, let's say. If you repeat gardening tools 5 times and it makes up 10% or 12% of the total words, is that, more beneficial than using less? And that used to be a part of the algorithm, how many times a phrase repeated and how it related to the density of the page. But most SEO experts now agree that it's no longer relevant. In fact, there are many pages out there on the internet that may rank high for gardening tools, and the page mysteriously doesn't have it on the page at all. You're going to find that when you do some of your research, you're going to see weird things like, how can this page be ranking so high for the word gardening tools when I don't see that phrase anywhere on the page? Well, that's because there are so many other factors to do with this search engine optimization stuff. If a lot of pages are linking to that page using gardening tools and some other LSI phrases related to gardening tools, that can make it rank high even if gardening tools doesn't appear at all. And vice versa. Some pages, if they say gardening tools on them, but they don't have any links at all on the internet at all coming to them, but it's gardening tools. Actually, it would have to be gardening tools and many other words and phrases, or many other words, so it's kind of a longer tail keyword. But if it happens to be that it's something no one's ever kind of optimized their page for, it can rank number 1 potentially and get traffic. So it works both ways, the on-page stuff, the off-page stuff, but keyword density is now considered the most overrated thing. Don't worry about it. Just don't over-optimize your pages. If you want to rank high for gardening tools, I don't recommend you use it on a page probably more than 3 or 4 times max. Most people say 1 or 2. So don't use it too much. Just use it how you would naturally. However that page is structured naturally, talking about whatever content it is, just let it fall where it may and go with that. Don't worry about, what percentage of it is the page and all that stuff, because it's really mattering less and less. There's some other tags in the HTML process of your source. We talked a little bit about this in keyword research, how you can look at your competitors' meta tags to find some keywords. When you create your meta tags, a lot of CMS software, a lot of blog software, we're going to talk about that on the CD. A lot of them automatically create some keyword tags, and some other software tools that are out there automatically do it for you. But if you're doing it manually, you basically just want to list the keyword phrase that you're targeting, as well as some kind of related phrases to it. And then, of course, LSI keywords with it. Don't just say gardening tools supplies, cheap gardening tools, discount gardening tools. That's the trap most people fall in and kind of spam their way in over-optimizing, and so it doesn't work well. So you just want to mix it up. Use gardening tools once, and then use LSI-related words. Landscape, flowers, supplies, grow vegetables, whatever else there is in that whole themed world related to gardening tools. The meta description also is another tag where you want to put in your keyword phrase that you're targeting. You want to also put in a few LSI keywords, but you want to write a little short description about what your page is about, but just make it natural. Again, let things fall where they may. Don't try to optimize it too much. Use your keyword phrase that you're targeting once, sprinkle in 2 or 3 other LSI keywords related to your theme, and just write it to sound like what that page is about, and you'll be fine. I recommend starting at least one sentence of the content on this page that you're trying to optimize for a certain keyword phrase to start with the keyword phrase. Just like we talked about, we're erring on the side of doing that with our titles. One sentence somewhere in the content. Doesn't have to be the first sentence of your content, and sometimes it's good not to have it be the first sentence, but somewhere in there in one of your paragraphs, just start the sentence with your keyword. You'll want to use LSI theme keywords. I'm going to tell you how to, kind of rank those out in a certain way and how you'd use them when we get to the master plan, how you decide which ones to use and how you kind of mix it up. I'll give you some thoughts on that. But you want to take these themed words and you want to just mix them, make sure they're just mixed throughout the content of the page, because that's kind of naturally how that page would be relevant, like I've already explained. So you just want to mix it up. When all else fails with SEO, just mix it up and make it random. Just don't keep repeating the same type of things. Surround your target phrase, if you can, with LSI keywords. So if you have a sentence and you say, this is the place to get some of the best gardening tools in the world, ideally you want to construct the sentence, at least one sentence where you're using the keyword phrase to kind of be bookend if possible. Some people are finding this is working pretty well. Bookend if possible with LSI keywords. For example, landscaping is an LSI phrase for gardening tools. So if you say, the key to good landscaping is using the right gardening tools, even if that's just your sentence. So at least you're surrounding it in a way where it's in front of it, but it's a part of the same sentence. It's not like you're using gardening tools in a sentence by itself without it. It's not like you're only using landscaping in a sentence by itself without it. You should do those things too. But surround it. So either in the beginning of it or on the back end of it or bookend it, both. So you want to try to surround your targeted phrase in the same sentence with LSI keywords. There are other tags in HTML called the H tags, H1, H2, H3. They're like these headline tags that kind of make larger text. For a long time, people say, use your keyword phrase in an H1 tag somewhere, towards the top of the page. And that's fine. That strategy still pretty much works in most cases. And some people say, put the next long tail version of the keyword in the H2 tag and then put the next version longer out still in an H3 tag. I don't necessarily see that works exactly. Again, all else fails, just mix it up. Use your keyword phrase that you're targeting in an H1 tag when you can, sometimes in an H2 tag, sometimes use an LSI keyword instead in the H1 tag. Mix it up. Like if you're targeting a page for gardening tools, let's say, maybe your H1 tag will say some of the best landscaping tools I recommend. Something like that, rather than just using, gardening tools by itself. Mix it up, put some other words with it, just make it natural. You also may want to, at least just like one time, again, this doesn't mean 500 times, like one time, emphasize your target phrase, the keyword you're trying to rank high for, with either bold or italic tags to kind of make it stand out somewhere in your content. Of course, make it make sense, but try to emphasize it somewhere. A lot of people are finding that works well, to at least just emphasize it once. Use image file names as the targeted phrase. If we're targeting a page for gardening tools, have an image on the page and make the file name, gardeningtools.jpg or gardeningtools.gif. However, the important thing to keep in mind with file names is it must be accurate and relevant. Don't go using an image that isn't of gardening tools, that's something else, like your photo, and naming it as gardening tools. That's a big no-no, because more and more Google seems to be doing things where, for example, with their image search, where people are finding that they're doing some kind of behavioral things with people not clicking on certain images when they do image searches because it's kind of a vote for relevancy and so on and so forth. We've talked about some of these things that Google's doing. So all else fails, just make sure the photo, the image, whatever you're using on your page is what you're calling it. But then, of course, try to use one that's your keyword phrase so you can name it gardeningtools.jpg. You want to link out to other trusted sources in your market. We talk constantly about follow the nature of the web and you'll win. Well, one of the most natural things on the internet are high-quality pages and sites that become these trusted sites, according to Google, that end up ranking high in their results. And the value of the trust, a part of the trust, is the fact that trusted sites link to other good resources and pages out there on the internet. That's the nature of the web, that pages link to other pages. So you want to link out to other trusted sources in your market. When you do your market discovery and you're finding the best blogs, when you're finding the competitors that already rank high for certain keywords, when you're finding sources of really good news and information and sites that are trusted in your industry and in your market, those are the sites that you constantly want to be reading and linking to, link to their blogs and their blog posts, which that's what will get them to end up linking back to you anyways when they see you as a trusted source. But you need to be linking out from your pages. Don't just think of having this link greed of, oh, I don't want to, spill link juice, as they say. I don't want to, use up some of my page rank and send it off to other sites. Actually, you do, because that's just how it works. So on all your pages, at least link out once or twice, maybe even 3 times to other sources. And just when you do it, though, make them trusted sources. And when you do it, you can use the keyword phrase that you're targeting that page for, but you really want to mix that up. Don't only use just the phrase by itself. Put in some LSI keywords, and of course, when in doubt, make that link have natural language. Make it like a part of a sentence, like a sentence fragment, like recent article on gardening tools. That whole thing being the link, not just gardening tools and a link somewhere else. But use keyword phrases that you're targeting and LSI keywords. Link out from a page that you're trying to rank high for gardening tools with links that say, here are great reviews of landscape tools. That's a good example, landscaping tools. So you want to mix it up so it's not just outgoing links with just your target phrase. You always want to be looking to link to your own pages to pass the link power from page to page on your site. And when we talk about site architecture coming up, we're going to talk about how that's all structured naturally anyways, how the navigation flows between the pages. But you still want to link to your other pages from different parts of your site. And so you want to do it within the theme. When we get to the part about site architecture and kind of theming out your site into these little areas, these little sub areas, you're going to want to be linking kind of between related sub areas, up or down on a ladder. I'll explain this to you when we get to that part. But don't link your pages necessarily within the content to other pages on your site if you have a lot of pages that aren't closely thematically related. So you want to stay within your theme. You'll understand this when we get to the site architecture part. But constantly look for an excuse to, just one link is usually pretty good. Don't overdo it. But look for excuses to link to your other pages. And when you do it, do from within the content. Don't just put it at the end of, an article by itself. Find a way to make it relevant within the conversation, so to speak, of the content that you're publishing, with what you're talking about. Find a way to work it in there. And of course, when you're linking to your other pages, you can use those keyword phrases that target that other page is structured to rank high for, but also mix it up and include some LSI keywords too. Don't just use just the keyword phrase itself.